Welcome into the Sideline Report for this week. As always, you've got the one, the only, the golden voice of the Southeast, Dave Adams, coming to you live and in living color from Harvest, Alabama, all the way from the very top of the state of Alabama. And it's the week of first, ladies and gentlemen. The first week of the AAF is over. It's in the books. And I, for one, thought it was a huge success. There were some words said on Twitter that I think Adam's going to get into later on the show when we record later this week by Kurt Herbstreit that called the AAF the JV League of Football. And he was responding to Greg McElroy, who said that it was a decent showing of football. But Kurt Herbstreit came in and said, you know what, this is JV. I can't go in to say that the AAF is JV because the product that I saw on the field this weekend from Orlando and Birmingham, those are the two teams that I paid attention to. Orlando and Birmingham had great showings. They had great athletes on the field. And to me, I hate to say this, but from what I saw this weekend, it was a better product put on the field than the NFL. I'd be more likely to watch what I saw in the AAF this weekend than anything I saw in the NFL in the past probably 2 years. Because the things I see in the NFL in the past 2 years are guys whining, guys crying, guys getting paid way too much to play a sport that's supposed to be fun. And look, I get it. These guys are paid multi-million dollars. They have to protect themselves somehow. They have to they have to think about their future somehow. So yes, get the money while you can. But you're getting paid to play a little kid's sport. Enjoy it. What I saw on the field in the AAF were guys who were hungry to make a name for themselves. Huge deal. I mean, no one knew who Luis Perez was before he even got drafted by the Iron. In fact, when he was drafted by the Iron, I had no idea who he was. But what happened on Sunday is he goes out and looks sharp, throws for 252 yards, makes some throws that I didn't think that anybody could make. You can definitely tell he spent some time in the Rams system. And he found guys that were open. Quentin Patton, 4 passes for 107 yards. It looks like him and Perez have been playing together for years when really they've only been together for 30 days. That's something that I think is going to differentiate this league. Once they have time to fully gel with these teams, this is going to be a great league. I don't know why anyone's not excited. The only reason I think Herbstreit's not excited, well, okay, never mind. I'll let Adam get into that because I'm sure he will on the show. He actually tweeted at Herbstreit. But let's get into my thoughts. So first off, stop me if you've heard this before. An Alabama team has an amazing defense and a decent offense that from the 20 to the 20 are great, but once they get into the red zone, they fall flat on their face and have to rely on their kicker. Luckily, unlike the University of Alabama, the Birmingham Iron have Nick Novak, a veteran of 10 years experience in the NFL. Well, he connected on 4 field goals today on Sunday. And a name that we all know and love on this podcast, Trent Richardson, made his return to the state of Alabama. And I'll tell you, for the first half of the game, Trent did not look good. But as Alabama fans, we know Trent looks better when he comes in the second half and just starts dominating. And that's exactly what Trent did. Going into halftime, I think Trent only had 18 yards. But at the end of the game, he had 23 attempts for 58 yards and 2 touchdowns. And one run in particular I saw that he made, he basically carried the entire Memphis Express team on his back. Very much like he did to the Arkansas team a couple years ago when he was in Crimson. But this Birmingham Iron team, they are going to look good. They're the only team in the AAF that had a shutout this weekend. I am not 100% sure if that's because the Express are that bad or because this Birmingham Iron defense, who has Xavier Dixon from Alabama, of course, Massaquoi, I believe he's from Georgia. Don't quote me on that. But this Birmingham Iron defense looks strong. They look stout. And if you listen to our podcast last week where we had Mark Burnett of the Birmingham Iron on, he said, look out for these defensive backs because Birmingham's head coach was a defensive back by trade. Tim Lewis was a defensive back by trade when he was in the NFL, and he just got injured a little too early for his career. But it looks like he has this Birmingham Iron defense ready to play. On the other hand, let's look at the other team that this podcast is kind of all in with, the Orlando Apollos. If you follow our Twitter, you saw that Adam was at that Orlando Apollos game. It in itself was a great game for different reasons. The old ball coach was back at his old game, and it looked like the fun and gun is back. It looked like Steve Spurrier was having fun. A name that we as Alabama fans will recognize was the quarterback for the Apollos, and Garrett Gilbert. Remember, he was at the time he was the freshman that came in to save Texas when Alabama took old Colt McCoy out in that national championship game. Well, Garrett Gilbert came in. He fell flat on his face at Texas. He went to SMU, had a decent career, and then he went into a little bit of the NFL, floundered a little bit, but now he's out and found some new life here for the Orlando Apollos. And it looks like Garrett Gilbert in this Steve Spurrier system is going to look really good. Once again, I don't know if this was that the Orlando Apollos and their wide receivers were really good. I mean, 40-6. Atlanta couldn't even get a lot of field goals. They only got 2 field goals in this game. I'm sure Adam's going to fill us in more, but Garrett Gilbert looked incredible. The Orlando defense looked good. Just by what I've seen, I don't believe any of the Las Vegas stats guys saying that Birmingham's going to be a bad team and Orlando's going to be middle of the road, because everything I have seen, those two, I'm not going to say they're the best in the league because I hadn't seen any of the West Coast teams play. But from what I saw, Orlando and Birmingham are the 2 best teams in the East. Hands down. I know they're the only 2 teams to win in the East, but in my mind, they are the only 2 teams that can compete in the East, because Christian Hackenberg was horrible against Birmingham. And I don't even remember. I'm looking at the stats, guys. Matt Sims, who was the quarterback for Atlanta, wasn't good. And then Aaron Murray kind of looked bad when he came in for Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to be a dumpster fire. Memphis, hopefully, if they get their stuff together, Mike Singletary is a good head coach. I think Memphis could get it together. But I think that Birmingham and Orlando will be battling out for the East win, which is great for this podcast because we've had Tom Alexander on. We've had Mark Burnett on. I think we could get those 2 guys back on to truly talk about how this league is going to go. But, guys, that'll do it for us here on the Sideline Report. Make sure that you listen to the show next week because we're going to go full into detail about both of these leagues. We're actually going to have audio from Steve Spurrier from the Orlando Apollos game. Adam was able to get into the press box for that Orlando Apollos game, and he will have some audio for us for that Apollos game from the old ball coach. I will say it was very weird to see the old head ball coach without a visor on. He was wearing a hat. I think something needs to change there. The Apollos need to find a visor and make sure Spurrier has that. But, guys, make sure you listen to the show. This week we're going to have some cool things lined up for you. But next week, be prepared because we're going to have Huntsville radio legend and the head of the radio broadcast for the Birmingham Iron on, Tom Abraham. So be prepared and be listening to this. Heck, we're not going to say we're your home for the AAF, but we're going to say we're going to be on top of this AAF, and I want you to follow us for as much AAF news as you can. But, guys, I say it every week. We love you. We'll see you guys on the next broadcast. Roll Tide, Forge On, and whatever the Apollos say. So go Apollos. We'll see you guys on the next show.